Thank you very much for the introduction. Once I was redoing the presentation yesterday night, I have changed the topic a little bit, and it now says cyber warriors. Where is our elite cybersecurity unit and the future of Pakistan? So what does that mean is basically cybersecurity is two things: bricks and mortars, the hardware, the software, and then the intellectual capital, which is the human mind. Okay. So it's very, very important. I mean, the security that you will be providing to the people of Pakistan is dictated by the weakest link, okay? And if you are having this massive mega infrastructure and their managers are ordinary human beings, we are not going to provide the state-of-the-art cybersecure systems. So it has to be matched, okay? The best people, best intellectual mind in this country, and the best infrastructure. And there are no two opinions about that. These would be some of the terms which would be probably some other speakers would be saying, but they are important. They're the foundation in cybersecurity. I would be just focusing on the last two terms, cyber warfare and cyber terrorism. But it doesn't mean that others are not important. They are also equally important, but not the scope of my talk today. Last year I was requested by SPD Security Division, once I was serving as the Dean Institute of Space Technology. They wanted to have a cybersecurity vision for strategic organizations, and they asked me could I be of some help. So at that time then I reviewed about 30-40 cybersecurity vision documents all over the world, and after a lot of reading I believe that the United States Air Force Cybersecurity Vision 2025 is one of the excellent documents that anyone must read. It's a textbook. Please read it if we want to have a cybersecurity policy. I have not seen a concise and better document than this one. Basically it covers, if you look at the Honorable Secretary was talking, it covers almost everything like space, air, the infrastructure, and then actually once you see that the modern way of looking at things is that cyber cuts through all the domains, no matter whether you are doing satellite communications for your strategic objectives, you are using air for regular network communication, if you are using hardware, it's there, infrastructure is there. So if you look at this diagram, this tells you that you cannot avoid cyber in any modern either strategic operations, military operations, intelligence operations, or running the economy of a country. So we have to be very clear what is cyberspace, what are the cyber missions. And the other beauty of this document is that USAF 2025, these guys say that future Air Force fighters would be two guys. One is fighter pilots that will be flying the missions around, and then the cyber warriors, which will be the guys sitting somewhere in a building and trying to hack into the military aircrafts of the enemies, and if possible trying to sort of taking control of the aircraft. Because if enemy aircrafts are in my territory and I can take control of them, the electronics, avionics, everything, then of course, that pilot is no good who is flying the machine. That's a very landmark objective. If you talk to, like, I am a graduate of Air Force Academy at Risalpur, so if you talk to the fighter pilots, I mean, they are like the thing in Air Force. And therefore US Air Force is saying, no, they are the thing, but then there is another thing which is called the guy who can take control of the aircraft by hacking into the aircraft. That warrior, that pilot, that fighter, cyber warrior is also very important to us. Okay, so they will be the two main pillars of US fighter machine of future. Secretary already talked about this, that cyber warfare is not something which is fancy words. I mean, that's real. We have seen this in Iran. And the only difference typically between cyber warfare and cyber terrorism, actually you are doing the same activity, but if it is done by state actors, that is cyber warfare. And if it is done by non-state actors, as we call them, it's the cyber terrorism. But the end objective is the same, to disrupt a government, its infrastructure, its military operations, and if possible, try to steal the documents. And these type of like cyber armies are now all over the world. China has one of the greatest ones, and United States is also responding back. I think there's a Lieutenant General now that is heading this cybersecurity division in the U.S. Army, so this war is also going on, and typically if China, US, they are like into sort of rivalry now. And the thing is, why Chinese guys got so much exposed, many people believe that the techniques they were using were not highly sophisticated. Okay, so Russians and Israelis, they are much better once they want to launch a sophisticated attack like Stuxnet. So now you might have seen that Chinese incursions on the US military and other corporate assets, I mean, they are not in the news for some time. And there could be two reasons: either China has pulled back, or the other thing, this army has gone sophisticated enough that they can do these stealth operations in the cyber domain. So who is the cyber warrior? I just want to conclude, because I think that's very important and very dear to my heart. The important thing is that the best intellectual minds who are studying in our elite universities, LUMS, IBM, NUST, GK, somehow we have to attract them to undergo military and intelligence training, okay? Because every organization has stars, and if there has to be a cybersecurity organization, its star has to be these guys who are the best intellectual mind in the country, and they also have the rigor and stress of undergoing through military and intelligence trainings. Whenever I pitch this idea to the people, they always say, how can a government, like for example, intelligence agency can attract LUMS graduates? This is not possible. I mean, and I said, then it means we are already accepting our failure. If CIA consists of 50 to 60% of Ivy League graduates, why can't ISI consist of 50 to 60% of LUMS and IBA, NUST or GK graduates? If that is not happening, we have to think out of box until we connect to these intellectual people and bring them into the work for the cybersecurity of Pakistan. I'm afraid our future, as far as the intellectual capital is concerned, is not going to be very different from where we are today. And these guys, typically, they are all genius technology gurus, and but they have hands-on field and intelligence operations. So they think they are two in one, right? So for example, if I'm an intelligence officer and I feel I need this technology, but since I am handicapped, so I always hire programmers who develop this technology. These guys have no real world operations experience, and at the end, whatever we get is not state of the art. So imagine if I'm also that guy who has both, like in the army they say command and staff post. So you have a field experience as a warrior in the field, and then you come back and you build a technology for the problems that you face. I mean, that is an excellent way of actually going around. And these are all duo-type fearsome warriors. They should be. So that's what is. And the other thing is, whenever you are making a policy, please give due credit to three layers that is very important. For example, typically, since most of the cybersecurity guys in Pakistan hail from software background, they overemphasize the software attacks, the network attacks, and network security attacks, which is because if they know that part of the story, they will only tell that part of the story. But the true is it's a 3-layer architecture. You have human resources, so you have to be very, very careful that because security at the end of the day gets hacked to some insider threat, which is a human being. Okay, so you can't run away from humans in the cybersecurity domain as well. The second is, of course, network and infrastructure, which is very important that we try to deploy our network infrastructure security solutions around us. And the least talked about is the hardware. I mean, you cannot build a castle on a security castle on a hardware which has been produced somewhere else. Okay, and recently you have heard about Intel microprocessors. I mean, they are having this bug which could be exploited for certain scenarios. So hardware is also a big part of the game. So until hardware is secure, until software is secure, until the people who are developing and managing that hardware and software are secure, I mean, there can't be any cybersecurity in Pakistan in foreseeable future. So without hardware, please forget about any, especially if you're talking about in the strategic domain, hardware is the pillar. I mean, you can't build things on hardware which is not produced by keeping security in mind. Okay, so with this thing, I then propose to them that we should have a cyber warfare academy. If we all agree that next war is going to be fought, or most of the wars are going to be fought in the cyber domain, then we should have a cyber, like we have a military academy, we have Air Force Academy, we have Naval Academy. There should be a cyber warfare academy, and with very focus on all these areas which we have to teach. And this academy is going to be something similar to the CIA FORM concept, because CIA, if you know, CIA has also academy which is called FORM, and the basic idea would be to get these Ivy League students, which in our case are institutions or UT Lahore, whatever, but they have to be best mind of this country, selected through a very, very competitive processes. And we luckily have civil services. We already know how to attract, how to then filter the best talent in the country. We have army selection processes available. We can do some mix and match of both, and then send them to this academy, which is not a big physical infrastructure. This is all intellectual infrastructure. Any University of Pakistan, say NUST for example, could house it initially. And these best guys, they undergo 2 trainings, the cybersecurity training and intelligence/military training, which means a mix of the 2. Okay, so that's, I think I already said, and it's very important. And then, okay, and why I'm asking this thing, because I've met almost 1,000 security experts in Pakistan over the last 10 years of my experience, and I always put this question, and you will be amazed. What I'm saying here is, typically if you want to send information across a network, you have to encrypt it, okay? And the way you encrypt it, use an encryption algorithm, and you use a secret key, which the recipient also has got, but not the adversary. And so anybody gets the information over the channel, it looks like a scrambled information. So I asked them, what happens if your adversary cracks the secret key of your encryption algorithm? And all of them say, then it means the communication is compromised. And I tell them, what is the solution? They say, change the secret key again. And I say, because if he has cracked your secret keying algorithm, then of course it can also get the new secret key. They say, but then it means then we have defeated. I mean, because if we cannot protect our secret key during the communication, then of course our communication gets plain, and we are naked in front of the enemy. So what I'm trying to emphasize here is, why can't many of these geniuses say, okay, let's find out a strategy. What happens if our secret key is known, and whenever we change the secret key, it also gets known, but still we should be able to put some level of resistance to the adversary if he gets hold of the information. They say that's not possible because this is what they have been taught in the textbook. So what I'm trying to emphasize here is that anything is possible. You are only limited by the imagination that you have got in your mind. So if you have got these intellectual people around, they will come up with a way that even if your algorithm is gone, your key is gone, but still enemy does not get the information straight away. He needs to put some effort in reverse engineering that information. Even though he has the key, he has the algorithm. So that's the food of thought from my side. I think I was given I'm already overgoing the time. So thank you very much for your attention.